Hi, and welcome to Missionary Talks by Marcy Fenn. This is the Cultural Adjustment Introduction. It's important to watch the introduction first because you need to request the handouts. There's about 5 different handouts. You can email me at marcy.fenn@gmail.com, marcy.fenn@gmail.com. You'll need to print these handouts before you begin. You can either print them as 5 different handouts, or you can do them front and back. But basically, you're going to have a cultural adjustment chart that goes over the different cultural values between North American and Latin American culture, where people can take notes. The second is skills important for adjusting to a different culture, where we stop and do an activity where you guess what you think the 3 most important are, and then where we go over what the 3 most important are. Then there is the section called How Does That Make You Feel? And I read a scenario about a basketball game, and then in groups you can decide, write down as quickly as you can how many feelings are brought up if you were in this situation. And so that can be one handout if you do front to back. Then the next one is the cultural shock, and this gives you an area, handout gives you an area to write down the answers to the definition, views, causes, results, and stages of culture shock. And if you print out on the back, we also have cultural adjustment curve. And so this shows you a curve of what is happening during culture shock and adjustment, as well as boxes for you to put the different things that we go over. And on the very bottom, it says what to do to help yourself. And it has 9 ways to help yourself through cultural adjustment. At the 5th printout, or on the 3rd page, if you're printing front and back, is a homework that I created called Cultural Adjustment Homework. And this allows you, after the tape, to be able to go through and process what you've learned and write down how you can apply that to different situations and different frustrations that you have. After you request the handouts, have them and print them and make copies if you're doing this as a group, then you will need 2 videos. You'll need Cultural Adjustment Part 1 and Cultural Adjustment Part 2. In general, this whole class and videos would take 3 to 4 hours. The varying of time depends on how long you pause the video and work on an activity, how long it takes or how big the group is to give their responses before you start the video again. It is also split into part 1 and 2 so that in the middle, your group can take a break. This also is dependent upon how long you want to do that. Some groups stop for 15 minutes just to have coffee and a snack, and others stop to have a whole meal together. So depending on how long your break is, that is what determines whether the class is 3 to 4 hours or even longer than that. Third, besides having the requesting the handouts, printing them, and making copies, and besides getting the 2 videos, Cultural Adjustment Part 1 and Cultural Adjustment Part 2, you also need to watch them. If you're going to do this as a group, it might be good to watch it before you present it to your group so you know what's coming next and you don't either get ahead of it or you don't forget to set it up in a certain way. But you can also watch it individually. Different small group ideas are as a business, as a classroom, a bunch of teachers, or teachers with students, or maybe the teachers could just take a couple principles and talk about them in the class. Other things are volunteers or people that come to work with you in a Latin American culture, and maybe you want to go over this with your team or some people before you serve for a week. Ministries and maybe ministry staff. Some ministries have half North American, half Latin American culture on their staff, so it would help them be able to relate to each other. And also you could do this with a small group of married couples, people that are married to the opposite culture. So really it's going to talk about the differences between North American and Latin American culture. Most of my examples are going to come from Honduras, but they are general to Latin America. And then we have all of the different handouts and activities to work through that are not only good for understanding the culture, but that are good for bringing a team together to work together and understand each other. So I hope you enjoy Cultural Adjustment Part 1 and 2. And if it blesses you in any way, or you come up with more examples of how Latin culture can learn to appreciate North American culture, by all means send them to the same email address, and we will try to add those if I ever do it again, or try to incorporate them somehow, or have some way that people can comment. Thank you and enjoy.